Hello, friends. Welcome back to BIMvoice. It's been a while since the last interview. And now I'm really happy to record a new session this year in 2023 and catch up with Nicolas Ariano and two of his colleagues and friends, I guess, from some projects he is involved with. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, Petru. Thank you so much for having us here again. We're really honored again to be in your podcast. It's a really good opportunity to share our thoughts and work. I am Nico Ariano. I am an architect, a researcher at the Carton Immersive Media Studio that Laura is going to present briefly. Also PhD student at Carton University. And I am studying topics of openBIM and open source software for the AEC industry. So yeah, thank you so much.
I'm Laura Chow, Associate Director of SIMS. I've been here for about 7 years. I've led projects like the Center Block Building Information Model, the Library of Parliament Building Information Model, and as well as making a city information model for the National Capital Region. And I'm also co-leading the development of our digital twin platform with Julie and Nico.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Ivanov. I'm a research lead for Imagining Canada's Digital Twin here at SIMS. I've been researching digital twins for the past 3 years as part of my master's, and I've also spent some time working in digitally assisted fabrication and digitally assisted storytelling here at the SIMS Lab. Nice to be here. Thank you.
It's really nice having you guys. I'm really happy for this. Now, please tell us a bit about what are we going to talk about today? What are you going to show us today?
For sure. So before we jump into the good stuff, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do here at the SIMS Lab and some of the projects that brought us to our digital twin work, specifically one called Imagining Canada's Digital Twin. And then Nico is going to give a demo of the prototype that we're developing. So who are we? We're a research center affiliated with Israeli School of Architecture and Urbanism here at Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada. Our research aims to demonstrate the value of new and digital technologies, emerging digital technologies for architectural rehabilitation, heritage conservation, and just the AECO industry more generally. So what do? We have 4 areas of research, and our first stream is digitization, which is the translation of the real world into XYZ coordinates through reality capture methods such as terrestrial laser scanning and photogrammetry. Next, we have modeling, where we take that metric information that we captured through digitization, and we translate it into geometry such as existing conditions models for BIM. In digitally assisted fabrication, our research aims to develop a process that augments traditional craft workflows with digital technologies. And finally, our digitally assisted storytelling research looks at creating things like web applications, AR and VR experiences to create engaging narratives for public dissemination. And finally, a 5th stream that you don't see here, but we're going to talk about today that's kind of emerging in our research is digital twins. And digital twin technology can provide information to improve design, construction, operation, and management of a building or a system of buildings. And we really believe that it's a design tool that can augment the way we make decisions. So I'm going to give you a brief background to kind of our journey that brought us to digital twin work by showcasing a couple of our projects. So when our current director, Stephen Fye, took over the lab in 2007, he really saw this opportunity to research heritage building information modeling. So essentially developing HBIM from point cloud data. So once we kind of showed the value of this to Public Works and Procurement Canada, they asked us to develop an existing conditions model of the Parliament Hill. And the Center Block BIM is actually currently being used for the rehabilitation project right now. Leaning into our BIM experience and learning from it, we also developed an asset information model of the Carleton University campus. And this could be used as a facilities management tool to analyze existing conditions and explore future management and planning decisions. So this contains over 50 detailed building information models of new and existing buildings and future constructions. And at this point in our research, we started to link facilities management data to show building performance in almost real time. So looking at things like electricity consumption, parking, building occupancy. And right now, we're currently working to integrate more kind of real-time data by working with the facilities management and operations team here at Carleton. Also, this was used for public outreach and engagement for a virtual tour for some of the students that couldn't actually visit the campus during the pandemic.
Wow, that was really cool.
Yeah, it was a great project to work on, and it's had so many different uses. That's really just showing, once you have a model, you can do so many different uses with it, and there's a lot of value to it.
Yes.
Yeah, and then so finally moving on to kind of one of our larger scale projects, we developed a city asset information model for the National Capital Region here in Ottawa. And basically what we did was consolidate a variety of data into this single application to be accessed by urban planners, architects, and the National Capital Commission staff. And basically this involved modeling the NCC's asset library, including monuments, sites, street furniture, but then integrating it into this base model that we developed from GIS data, as well as of the topography and kind of the built environment. So now I'll hand it over to Julie, who will talk a little bit about the digital twin project.
Thanks, Laura. So a couple of years ago, our work brought us to a new question. What could a national digital twin of Canada be? And for those who aren't familiar with the term digital twin, it's a system that has three parts. So it's a physical thing in real space, such as the building we're in now, the digital version of that thing in virtual space, so a BIM of this building, and synchronized data connections between the two, updating the digital model to reflect its current state. Now, ideally, data would be updated automatically using sensors or IoT to show what's happening in real time. We're still working on that part of it. But what's amazing about digital twins is that they bring together all types of information into one place. So we can see the entire system and its context and effects on other things. We can then use this information to help us make decisions on how to improve building performance or change the way we design cities and test those scenarios and identify areas that need help. Now, many cities are already working on digital representations of their urban environments and publishing open data. What is missing is a structure that could bring all of these urban representations together. But what about the places in between these urban centers? And what about infrastructure that connects all of us, such as networks like electricity, transportation, and communications technology? So in March of 2020, we were fortunate to receive funding from the New Frontiers in Research Fund to develop this question further. This is a government funding program that supports high-risk, high-reward research. Our project, Imagining Canada's Digital Twin, which is ICDT, is the exploration of the idea of a digital twin of Canada. So for our research, we have two objectives: to build a research consortium for of academic, Indigenous, not-for-profit, public, and private partners that represent local and regional networks, and also to develop a prototype of the Montreal and Ottawa-Toronto corridor. We will use what we've gathered from these 3 years to apply for the next phase of funding, which is the transformation grant, which will provide funding for up to 7 years, and where we will continue exploring a digital twin of Canada at a national scale and beyond the AECO. ICDT is the first national initiative to address the opportunities, challenges, and responsibilities involved in developing a digital twin at a national scale for Canada. And we believe that ICDT is an opportunity to develop a leadership role for the AECO for Canada in the integration of innovative digital technologies. And our goal is not to resolve the question of a digital twin for Canada, but to determine its feasibility and the level of effort required to see it realized, and to establish a national group that's supposed to move forward in this realization.
If I may jump in, I have two quick questions. Is this only for buildings?
First phase of the grant, we're looking at the AECO specifically, but when we apply for the next phase, we want to go beyond architecture and building. We want to look at all different disciplines and see what else we can integrate at the national scale.
I was thinking more about if it's only buildings or also infrastructure, like roads and so on, if this is also part of the project.
Yeah, absolutely. Ideally, it's everything. We want to include all the trees, water bodies, if we could include soil types, transportation networks, all of the infrastructure required for a city, as well as those buildings.
Okay, I don't know how this works in Canada. Who is the client? Because here in Norway, we have different clients for different type of assets, right? To do that in Norway, you need more institutions to work together, like 4 or 5. How does this work in Canada?
Well, I guess maybe Nico's the best to answer that, because he's going to show a little demo of what we've been working on in the platform, but how it can host different use cases depending on what those needs are. And so ideally, anybody could use the digital twin platform, because it's going to be the base model for which you can put and start controlling your own assets or whatever it is that you want to use that model for your own needs. And so we want everybody to be in control of their own data. It's not for us.
Would this then be a paid service that people need to pay for to access this data, or you think that this is going to be funded by government, or it's way too early to think about these details, I guess, but yeah.
I think it's pretty early right now, but we want to make this as inclusive and accessible to as many groups and people as possible. What we're really trying to do is take open data and make it accessible to people who maybe don't have the technology or the means to view it. So really, we don't necessarily have a client, but we're hoping to do this kind of for Canada on a so it wouldn't be a paid for application.
That's cool. That sounds good. This is only in a presentation stage, or did you actually build a proof of concept within a platform or something?
So that's what Nico's just about to show you. We've been working on this for about a year now. Really, it started with imagining what it could potentially be, and then we started developing it in-house here at Sims about a year ago. So maybe we can hand it over to Nico and he'll show you what we've been working on.
As Julie has mentioned, we started from the BIM because we are all architects and we have been developing the BIM skills for a long time. We have been working with large asset information models and building information models for more than 10 years. And at one point, so we got to the point that like the tools that we were using were unable to enable us the uses that we wanted, like the scale, the intersection of different data sets, the flexibility that we require in order to have this very ambitious project. So that's when we started, as I mentioned in our previous interview, we started learning about this open source initiative that, for example, Dion Mould and the OS Arc is promoting. Like, how can we take these packages, these tools from the AC industry and use them more openly. So that's when we started like putting things together, geospatial information systems, BIM, open data from municipalities, from federal government, etc., and try to make something that people can access more easily. So we started learning the tools. And as I was saying, because our background is on BIM, we started from there, but we are in our roadmap, we have there to incorporate as many disciplines as we can that will benefit the users at the end. So basically the starting point was that BIM is normally promoted as you always mention in your podcast, is promoted as a process to enhance collaboration and connect people and data, but that the status quo is different because normally we use proprietary solutions, closed file formats, and that limits our accessibility and interoperability. So also, as I was mentioning, like the increasing complex of the AC industry project requires technology that integrates these different skills. And to address some of these challenges, the Cartoon Immersive Media Studio Sims is researching this open source collaboration platform that one of the uses is going to be the Imagine Canada Digital Twin. And also we are trying to do it for other projects of Sims. And this way we want to make this data easily accessible to stakeholders, to the community, okay? And so we are developing these platforms, and the goal is to integrate multi-scale, multidisciplinary data sets into this web-based model without needing an additional software. So it's vendor neutral, and you don't require to download any software, just the browser. So that means that the platform can be accessed from any device with internet, your smartphone, your computer, etc. And the idea is that we support uploading BIM, ideally from open formats like IFC or GLTF or GLB, etc. And also eventually point clouds and other kind of like photogrammetry models or other kind of sources. And also, finally, try to integrate real-time or close to real-time data, dynamic data, also into the feedback loop of this. And such sources that I was mentioning from federal government, infrastructure providers, urban center, etc. And this platform is designed for flexibility, and the idea is that it continues to evolve with the technology. So, for example, we have been using IFC.js library for the BIM. We have been using MapLibre and Mapbox for the map tiling, etc. And we have been learning different technologies to make this more. So yeah, I just going to jump into sharing my screen and show you a little bit of this. But this digital twin of Canada, we are open to collaboration. So if at any point anyone from your audience wants to collaborate with this project from Canada or maybe from other country, we are always open to keep this conversation, and it will be very exciting to have you all part of this.
Do you have anything more specific in mind regarding collaboration? Give me some examples of collaboration that you think of, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. So since this is built on open source libraries, if anyone can contribute expertise or knowledge for kind of development, that would be incredible. But also data. We're testing all different sorts of data and kind of what data can be brought in and the file types, etc. So we're always looking for data as well. But even just people to say, hey, I think this would be a really great platform to do X, Y, Z. Like, what kind of uses would you want to see in it? How would this make your life better? How would this make your day-to-day at work easier? I mean, it just, any sort of input like that would be fantastic.
Yeah, we're especially interested in minority groups. Like, we have some Indigenous partners with ICDT, but we're looking to hear, like, what do they need? We want to hear from women, people of color, like just these small enterprises. And it's like, well, what do you need? What would you be using a digital twin for? You know, we've been developing it with us at the lab, but we want to hear from industry and just what those use cases are. And then we can integrate and start developing those tools, and so they can work within this platform.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, Petru, so I was mentioning that we're using different packages online. The one that you are seeing right now is Mapbox. We're also experimenting with MapLibre, which is kind of like the open source, free and open source version of it. And here we have implemented some features. Of course, this is just a prototype and some early features, but for example, we are developing this authentication system where people can log in, sign up, log in with their credentials and get like a specific content depending who they are, which group they belong to. And then when you are in, you can start navigating the platform. I'm going to show you this in a second. But some of the technologies that I wanted to mention is like, okay, we started building this with the language of all of the modern web browser, which are JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. And also we are incorporating some of the libraries that I was mentioning, Mapbox and the OpenStreetMap layers, 3JS for the 3D graphics, IFC.js for BIM. And also we are working into implementing some more professional, maintainable front-end frameworks such as TypeScript and React. So yeah, we use this geocoder to navigate Canada. So I'm going to show you, for example, if I go to Toronto, we are going to be able to access some of the layers that the Open Toronto has in their website. For example, you can access the position and some of the data of all of the bus stops in the Open Toronto datasets. Where are the garbage cans, bicycle parkings, etc. So this is one of our way of making data that it's in these sites just posted as like, I don't know, JSON, GeoJSON, with that format that are really hard for like not developers to use, to make this accessible and also to make them a part of the context for your digital twin work. Also, we have incorporated, as I was mentioning, layers from OpenStreetMap. So here you can see that we have like the extrusion of the buildings in rural and urban areas. And beside having integrated these layers from libraries or from packages online, we are finding ways of incorporating data from the client, from the user. So here, for example, I'm going to just directly from the front end, I'm going to just generate a new area. So I'm going to call this Park 1, doesn't matter. And then here, I can start uploading my models directly. So here, for example, I'm going to select the position, and then you can start putting the IFC or GLTF or whatever file that you need to upload there. So yeah, I'm just going to use this model here. You can place it, you can move it around, and this is going to become part of the database, basically. Yeah, so that's pretty much the way we are asking the user to upload data. And I'm going to show you in one of the cities that we have added data from our SimsLab projects. So in Ottawa, which is our city, we're going to show you the project that Lara mentioned earlier, which is the Carton Digital Campus. Sorry, I have the Zoom user interface here. So here, as Lara was mentioning, this is more than 50 buildings in our university campus. So 4 gigabytes of IFCs, and you can see that all of the buildings load pretty fast. Like it takes a couple of seconds to have like all of them loaded directly on the context. And you can access each of them. And also, as I was mentioning earlier, you can integrate some other layers from the internet to have them as context. So here you can just go and access any of the 50 buildings that have been placed. And for example, I'm going to show you the building that we are right now here, which is the BIM building. And here we are opening like an isolated view that we call the BIM viewer. And here we are using some of the tools that we are getting from IFC.js, for example, library, to, I don't know, for example, change the projection from perspective to orthographic, so that way we can generate elevation, plan, etc. Then we can also go inside the building by cutting planes, like cut planes. And for example, we're going to show you where we are right now in this table here. We can use this model directly on the browser. And there are some features that we have been developing. For example, I don't know, you can measure things directly there on top of the digital assets. You can type message. So for example, here in this table, I'm going to say, we are here, etc. So this could be kind of like a communication platform also.
Who can read that message?
Eventually, the users will be able to, because they log in, so they will be able to add notes or measure things directly on the spot. And finally, because this is BIM, you can access the metadata of all of the objects. Here are some of the property sets, and also the IFC tree. So this way you can see like the entire IFC model with all of their components directly here on the browser. So that's pretty much what we have so far. And because we are building this with the roadmap that I was mentioning, we are trying to develop new tools, for example, to integrate dynamic data coming from real-time data sets. Also, we are trying to incorporate some kind of verification of models. So if somebody uploads a model, there could be an organization of someone curating the data, so making sure that it's accurate, making sure that it's appropriate. And finally, also trying to add a phasing. So you can have maybe a model in different phases in time to see how it was in construction, or maybe a design development, etc. And slide through the different phases in that.
Well, I think part of this is just making sure that the features that we have are stable and putting it through testing and understanding if there's bugs. And we really want to push the limits of the platform and figure out exactly what file types we can support, what kind of geolocation we can support. Also doing some more collaboration features, so being able to share views. So if you have a portfolio of buildings and you want to share a view of a building with a client, then you can share the exact camera location. As Nico mentioned, you can also do some sharing of comments. So if you're walking through a building and saw that something needed repair, you could leave a message on something, said, hey, check this out. I think this needs a repair. Someone can open it up on an iPad, go check it out. So just features like that. And one that's really important to us is obviously being able to access open data and making it accessible to people. So we're also looking at integrating things like zoning parcels, land use, but doing that automatically. So it actually calls to these databases through an API, and then we automatically get the data as it's updated by whoever's providing it. So yeah, I think that's everything that we're currently working on. But yeah, if anyone has any ideas for features or uses, we'd be happy to hear it.
It's only you three guys working on this project, or there are other people involved as well?
No, there's more than just us. We have a couple developers working on it as well, and someone working on the UI UX, but it is a fairly small team. I think there's about 7 of us. So and the thing too is we're primarily architects and engineers, not developers. So obviously it's maybe a little bit slower than if we were a software company, but yeah. You are using all these open source tools, right? But that does not mean that this project will be like a repository on GitHub, right? So, well, what we're hoping to, and we're going to kind of, once we test some bugs out, we're thinking of actually making it open. So cool. Yeah, we're working towards it, right? So something to look for in the future. That's interesting, because if you do that, then that might become a global digital twin, if there is interest and involvement.
Petru, as we were mentioning, we started learning about the open source communities like a few years ago, and this is all new for us, but we like what they do. We like the community that they generate, and we think of this project, if we can make something like that, we have seen different examples of digital twins in other countries, and what we want to propose as a novel thing is, how can we make this like an open source library that the community can participate? There are more eyeballs for fixing bugs. Maybe there are going to be more use cases proposed by the community, etc. And so that's kind of like our goal, and And that's the way we're trying to build it from the beginning. So yeah, if that works, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds very cool.
Canada is so large geographically, and often it's always the city centers that get funding. And so they can produce things like all these digital assets and open source tools. But it's like, what about these smaller communities or the rural areas? And so in order to hopefully like involve them and get them to participate, and so that way they can use this and make use of all of this technology without having to, purchase really expensive proprietary software or worry about getting government funding in order to make this possible, or new training, etc. So we want to make sure that they can contribute, and then we can learn more about those networks that involve not only the big city centers, but also these smaller communities.
That's an important point, actually, and that's something happening, I think, not only in Canada. That's something normal here in Norway as well. All the attention is in Oslo. At least there is some efforts, to keep some interest in other cities as well, because otherwise it would be just Oslo. But this is anyway. A lot of people are trying to go to the capital, right, or these kind of places. But and it's good to provide solutions and treat the same this. Minorities, national inside the nation, right? Which is it's actually, even if it's not a minority per se, but it's places, but still they get less attention and less resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we know that these open source communities and tools are growing a lot in the world and also in Canada, we have been organizing this event that is called Open Source Software for the ACO in Canada. And we are going to host that here at SIMS on the Thursday, the 16th. So in a couple of days. And we want to invite anybody in Canada. We have limited for 50 people and we're almost sold out. And anyone can join this event on YouTube. So we're going to have people from Buildings International, so from open standards. We're going to have people from the industry, like HOK. Antonio from IFCJS is going to present from the software part. And then Julia and myself, we are going to present what we're doing here, like from academia and research. And we're going to present this project again. So yeah, everybody's invited.
This sounds very good. I'll make sure to give a big shout out to this event.
Thank you so much, Petru.
Before we wrap it up, what is the best way, if anyone is interested, to reach out to you guys? How should they proceed?
So they can reach us through our website. If you go to www.sims.carleton.com, we have some contact information there. We also have a website for the Imagining Canada's Digital Twin project that will get you in contact with Julie directly.
And that's canadasdigitaltwin.ca.
Petru, thank you so much for this.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having us. Pleasure.
And I wish you good luck with the project. I really hope you get more funding and you get more interest and many users, many people willing to involve themselves in the project.
Thank you. We'll keep you posted with the with the progress for sure.
And good luck with the event.
Yeah. Thank you so much.